General William Hayes didn't step around Keisha Washington. He moved through her space as if she were an inconvenient piece of furniture. Her files cascaded from her arms, exploding across the polished Pentagon floor. 20 officers froze, the silence in the room thick with shock. Hayes slammed a classified document onto the conference table, his face a mask of crimson rage. 3 hours. 3 hours until a massacre, and nobody can crack this African gibberish. His gaze dropped to Keisha, still on her knees gathering her papers. A cruel, calculated smile twisted his lips. Wait, you people probably speak this monkey language, don't you? A wave of gasps rippled through the room. Even the most hardened officers looked away, horrified. Hayes kicked the document toward her face. Get on your knees and read this to me like a good little native. Translate this. My rank is yours. The room broke into nervous, shocked laughter. Some officers turned away in disgust. Keisha stood slowly. A thin trickle of blood traced a path from her split lip. She looked directly at Hayes, her expression one of deadly calm. I'll translate your document, sir. She wiped the blood with the back of her hand. But have you ever been challenged by someone who had no idea who they were really talking to? The room held its breath. Hayes threw himself into his chair, the clock ticking down. It's ticking, sweetheart. 200 peacekeepers are about to die because of your people's tribal wars. The document lay crumpled between them. Keisha bent, not in submission, but with purpose, smoothing the paper carefully. Her hands were perfectly steady. Sir, she said, her voice quiet but clear, this isn't what you think it is. Hayes barked a laugh. Oh, the native's going to educate me now? Intelligence Officer Martinez leaned forward, nervous. General, the document was intercepted from a rebel faction. Our best linguists from 3 departments couldn't decode it. Because they're not African, Hayes sneered, gesturing at Keisha as if she were proof. Keisha studied the text. Her eyes moved across the handwritten script, and a grim recognition dawned. She knew this handwriting. The timer read 3 hours, 22 minutes. General, she said, her voice gaining strength, this isn't a threat. It's a warning. Someone is trying to save those peacekeepers' lives. Skeptical murmurs erupted. Hayes slammed his fist on the table. 2 minutes. You expect me to believe you can read what our experts couldn't? The peacekeepers aren't in danger from rebels, sir. They're walking into an ambush set by government forces using American weapons. Dead silence. Martinez pulled up satellite imagery. That's impossible. Our intelligence is wrong. Keisha's voice cut through the room like a blade. This document gives the real coordinates. It's not where your satellites are watching. Hayes stood slowly, his face darkening. Who the hell do you think you are? Keisha met his glare without flinching. Before I translate the rest, General, there's something you should know about that rank you just offered me. The silence was deafening. Hayes crossed his arms. What could you possibly tell me about rank, girl? Keisha set the document on the table with deliberate care. This warning was written by Captain Fode Senko Jr. He's trying to prevent a massacre, not cause one. Martinez typed frantically. Ma'am, there's no Captain Senko in our database. Because he's not in your system, Keisha replied calmly. He's a former Sierra Leone army officer who went underground. I know his handwriting because I worked with him for 3 years. Hayes stepped closer, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Worked with him? Doing what? Cleaning his floors? No, sir. Planning counterinsurgency operations. The room shifted. Officers leaned in, listening now. Keisha pointed to the text. These aren't tribal markings. They're military grid coordinates disguised as proverbs. She traced a phrase. When the cola nut meets the palm wine, that's a village called Cola Nut Junction, 15 kilometers north of your focus. Check your satellite history. You'll see a battalion-sized element moving in at night. Hayes was reeling. You expect me to believe some contractor knows more than Pentagon intelligence? Keisha stood at her full height. The blood on her lip had dried. General, when you said, my rank is yours if I could translate this, I need to tell you something about that offer. Get to the point. I already had one. The words detonated in the silence. Had what? Hayes demanded. A rank. Keisha's voice was steel. Lieutenant Colonel, United States Army Intelligence. Retired. The room exploded in shock. Martinez nearly knocked over his coffee. Hayes stared, his world tilting. 12 years active duty, she continued. 3 deployments to West Africa. I ran intelligence operations from 2006 to 2018. I know Captain Senko because I recruited him in 2009. I trained him. I've read hundreds of his reports. Martinez found his voice. Ma'am, if that's true, why are you a contractor? Because, Captain, Kesha said, her eyes locked on Hayes. Sometimes having rank isn't enough to save the people you're supposed to protect. The timer showed 2 hours, 58 minutes. Hayes's jaw worked. Prove it. Keisha pulled out her phone, dialed from memory, and put it on speaker. Senko, this is Phoenix, authentication code Green Lion 7. A voice answered, excited. Phoenix, sister, where have you been? Are you seeing my warning? I'm seeing it, Captain. How much time? They move at midnight. Government forces. They want to blame us for killing Americans. Hayes grabbed the phone. This is General Hayes. Who is this? General, this is Captain Senko. The woman you were speaking to saved my village in 2009. You should listen to her. Hayes slowly handed the phone back, his face pale. Captain, send the coordinates to these Pentagon frequencies, Kesha commanded, rattling off numbers. Already transmitting, Phoenix. Be safe, sister. The line went dead. 23 officers stared at her. The dynamic in the room irrevocably shifted. So, General, she said quietly, about that rank you offered. Hayes sank into his chair, the arrogance gone, replaced by shame. Lieutenant Colonel, he breathed. Jesus Christ. Kesha was no longer the submissive contractor. A career officer now stood in her place. I grew up in Freetown, she began. My father was a U.S. diplomat. I was 16 when the Civil War exploded. I watched soldiers massacre a village while we waited for evacuation. I promised myself I'd come back with the authority to stop it from happening again. The room was utterly silent. West Point, class of 2002. Top of my class. The army sent me back to Sierra Leone as a lieutenant. I thought rank would be enough. Her voice grew pained. By 2009, I was a lieutenant colonel. I had satellites, resources, respect, and I had to watch another village get slaughtered because Washington prioritized politics over lives. The massacre at Kaidu, Martinez whispered. 47 people died while I argued about rules of engagement. I had the intelligence. I had the rank. But I didn't have the power to override the politics. Hayes's voice was soft. So you left. I retired at 31. I took this job because I could still use my skills without carrying the weight of command. Without anyone expecting me to save lives I couldn't save. Why hide it? Martinez asked. Because every time someone offers me authority like the general just did, Kesha said, her eyes dark, it reminds me of all the times that authority failed when people needed it most. The timer showed 2 hours, 41 minutes. An alert chimed. Martinez pulled up new satellite imagery. Ma'am, you need to see this. The screen showed unmistakable movement. Vehicles, personnel, weapons. A battalion-strength force exactly where she said they would be. Hayes stared, then looked at Kesha. Colonel, Kesha, what do you need? Direct communication with Peacekeeping Command, and someone needs to contact Captain Senko, now. Within minutes, screens lit up with feeds from the UN and Sierra Leone. This is Colonel Morrison, UN Command. Our forces are in safe positions. Kesha stepped forward. Colonel Morrison, this is Kesha Washington, former U.S. Army Intelligence. Your forces are walking into a government ambush in approximately 7 hours. Ma'am, with respect, our intelligence shows rebel threats. Your intelligence is wrong. Redirect Alpha and Bravo companies immediately. A new voice crackled over the radio. Captain Senko. Phoenix. Government forces are moving heavy weapons. American equipment. Hayes leaned in. What kind? M240 machine guns, M4 rifles, Humvees. Someone is supplying your weapons to people who want to kill your allies. The room fell silent. This was bigger than an ambush. Martinez pulled up data. Sir, we did have equipment go missing from a joint training exercise 6 months ago. Missing, Kesha said grimly, or stolen by people we were supposed to trust. Colonel Morrison's voice was tense. Miss Washington, if we redirect and you're wrong, then you can blame me, Kesha interrupted. But if you don't, and I'm right, you'll be explaining to 200 families why their children died because you wouldn't listen. Hayes moved to the microphone. Colonel Morrison, I'm staking my career on this woman's assessment. Move your people. A long pause. Copy that. Alpha and Bravo companies are redirecting. The countdown timer showed 2 hours, 19 minutes. Hayes watched Kesha coordinate the operation with natural command authority. She wasn't asking permission, she was giving orders, and people were following. Martinez, she called. Satellite surveillance on these grid coordinates. They're staging from these positions. How do you know that? Because I helped design the tactical doctrine they're using. We trained them to fight rebels, not Americans. They're using our manual against us. Hayes felt sick. We created this problem. Yes, sir, but now we're going to solve it. She looked at him. What rank did you offer me? Right now, I'm going to act like I actually have it. The next morning, the peacekeepers were safe. But in a Pentagon briefing room, a different battle was brewing. Colonel James Peterson, a man carved from tradition, sat at the head of the table. Let's be clear, he began. A civilian contractor bypassed the chain of command. How do we verify her true loyalties? Her connections to foreign nationals? Kesha sat in the back, watching the institutional machinery turn against her. The coded language, the raised eyebrows. She'd seen it before. Her intelligence proved accurate, Martinez offered weakly. This time, Peterson snapped. What about next time? Furthermore, General Hayes made an inappropriate promise. My rank is yours. What's next? Giving command to janitors? Harsh laughter echoed. The mood was shifting. Kesha stood. Every head turned. Colonel Peterson, she said, her voice cutting through the tension. You want to know about my loyalties? I want to know why someone with your background would hide among support staff. She walked toward him. Normal people haven't watched children burn alive while politicians debate. That emotional instability is exactly what concerns me. Perhaps we should stick to analysts who understand American interests. Kesha stopped directly in front of him. You've spent 25 years behind desks in Virginia. I've spent 12 years bleeding for American interests in places you can't pronounce. The question isn't whether I'm loyal. The question is whether you're brave enough to use the best intelligence available, or if you'd rather let people die than admit a black woman knows more than you do. 3 weeks later, the consequences of that prejudice played out in real time. Without Kesha's cultural intelligence, the Pentagon was failing. Sir, we've lost contact with Embassy Team Alpha in Ghana. Our translators interpreted Brotherhood Gathering as a terrorist meeting. Hayes closed his eyes. Kesha would have known it meant a peace ceremony. Casualties. 12 Americans evacuated under hostile fire. The terrorists were tribal elders. Another screen showed a disaster in Mali. A raid based on mistranslated market day announcements had targeted a children's school. International fallout, Hayes asked grimly. France is questioning our competence. Britain is excluding us. The African Union issued a formal complaint. Martinez looked up. Sir, field commanders are specifically requesting the contractor. The woman General Hayes trusted with his rank. The irony burned. Peterson's security review had sidelined her. Hayes's secure phone buzzed. It was the Secretary of Defense. My office, now, and bring whoever was responsible for the Sierra Leone success. We need to fix this disaster. Hayes looked toward the basement stairs. It was time to admit the truth. That evening he stood outside Kesha's apartment. No aides, no uniform. Kesha, he said, looking worn down. May I come in? He sat on her couch, surrounded by her language textbooks. When I said, translate this, my rank is yours, I thought I was being generous to someone who didn't deserve it. I was wrong about everything. His voice cracked. I let institutional prejudice override operational necessity. People nearly died. He pulled out an official document. This is a formal offer. Senior Cultural Intelligence Advisor, direct report to the Joint Chiefs, authority to override any intelligence assessment. Colonel Peterson has been reassigned to Nebraska. Kesha read it carefully. Why now? Because 3 weeks ago I offered you my rank as an insult. Today I'm offering you a position that outranks me because it's what you should have had all along. He met her eyes. I hope you'll say yes, for all the villages we can save. Kesha set down the document. I'm not taking this to prove anything. I'm taking it because people need someone who understands that authority should be used to protect, not to dominate. She signed. When can you start? I never stopped working, General. I just stopped being allowed to do my job. Now I can do it properly. 18 months later, Director Keisha Washington walked through the Pentagon corridor where her journey began. A bronze monument gleamed outside the window, inscribed with the words that started it all. Translate this, my rank is yours, where recognition begins. She watched her team of 200 cultural specialists training new officers. The topic, how to recognize excellence you're not looking for. General Hayes joined her. The ripple effect still amazes me. Your story inspired a cafeteria worker with a PhD to join the CDC. A polyglot security guard became a cultural attaché. That's what happens, Kesha said, when people stop being invisible. That evening, she faced a camera for a global audience. 18 months ago, someone offered me their rank as an insult. I accepted it as a challenge. She leaned forward. Right now, in your workplace, there's someone whose talents you've never noticed. The person cleaning your office might speak 5 languages. The security guard might be an engineer. This week, find one person. Ask them about their dreams, their skills, then do something radical. Offer them an opportunity. Say, my platform is yours. My network is yours. Share your story. Use the hashtag. Let's create a movement where dismissal becomes discovery. Corporate leaders, managers, the next Kesha Washington might be in your lobby right now. The world needs every brilliant mind, regardless of the uniform they wear. My rank is yours. Now, whose rank will you offer?